Thank you for tuning in and watching episode 14 of our live podcast at Holy Shiitake. We are back live, that's right, and it is our first time on Facebook. This is pretty great. As usual, I am joined today by Jay. Hello, Jay. How's it going?
Hello, Flo. How are you today?
I'm pretty good. Pretty excited for our first live in a couple of months now. It's been a while. It's been
quite a long time.
It's been a long time. A lot of stuff happening, but we've been working on a lot of new things, and this is one of those. We decided to move away from the Twitch platform where it just wasn't working very well for us, and we've moved here to Facebook. Hopefully, we'll be more accessible to you guys, our viewers. Thanks for being here. All right, Jenny. Oh, by the way, I forgot. If you prefer watching this like on the audio form, I know some people like that better. You can find us on Spotify, iTunes, and all those places. Just look for Holy Shiitake. You will find us. This video will also be available on YouTube in a couple of days. And yeah, okay. All right. So what are we talking about today, Jenny?
All right, Flo. Today we're going to talk about my experience moving to Japan for the first time.
So you moved to Japan. When did you move to Japan?
I moved to Japan, if I remember, oh God, that was like quite a long time now. If I remember, that was back in 2015. Yes, 2015.
2000.
So that's like
5 years?
Yeah, about 5 years now, but it feels like 6 years and probably more than that.
I feel, yeah. I've been in Canada for 14 years, and it feels longer than that sometimes.
14 years.
Yeah,
wow.
Man. Some days I'm like, what? I've been here for 2 years, and some days I'm like, I've been here forever.
Wow. So you moved from what country?
So I moved from France. I used to live in Paris, and decided to move to Canada about 14 years ago.
Wow, that was quite a long time ago.
That was a while ago. But anyway, I'm pretty sure moving to Japan is kind of a challenge in itself. And
it's a big challenge, yes.
It is a big challenge, I'm sure. And today we kind of wanted to share with our viewers and audience on the page kind of what it's like to basically leave everything behind and start again in a new country. So how about just
exactly
tell us about it? What made you move, and what was your experience with that?
Yeah. So again, a while ago, I mentioned that I had 3 stages in my life moving to Japan. The first stage was the Japanese dream. I called it the Japanese dream because, like the American dream, everybody or a lot of people really dream about living in Japan, or at least seeing a moment of their life being in Japan, traveling in Japan, experiencing what it's really like in this country, probably because a lot of people were inspired by movies, by Japanese culture, or even anime, which is the most popular reason, right?
Right. It is a pretty popular reason. I know that's how I kind of got into Japanese culture as well. Was because of anime and video games.
Yeah, I agree with you, because when I was a child, probably when I was 9, I was inspired by 2 of the most famous anime in the Philippines, and that was Dragon Ball and Sailor Moon. I remember so well. That really inspired me.
Everybody from our generation will be able to relate to that probably.
Yes, the 90s generation.
Right.
So Flo and I are part of the 90s kids, and watching these 2 anime back in the Philippines really inspired me and got me curious about what's it like to be in Japan. And then I started drawing anime. I started learning hiragana and katakana with my sister Cloves, and that's how the Japanese dream developed.
Nice.
Yeah, and then as time went by, of course, the normal life Japan, I started working in the usual jobs in the Philippines. Unfortunately, I really didn't make it in the corporate life in the Philippines. And sadly, oftentimes I lost my job because of the incompetency, is that word? Being incompetent. Well,
Right.
not me being incompetent, but most companies in the Philippines are not really successful, and that really affected a lot of employees in the Philippines. And I was part of it. And there really came a time where I was jobless for 8 straight months, and I got really depressed.
Wow.
And then to relate this to my Japanese dream, my sister actually suggested me, why not teach online English to Koreans or Japanese people? And at first, having this pride and ego, I was like, I didn't graduate just to teach English online.
Right.
And then, I tried to apply online to my dream job, which was originally to become a graphic designer. Unfortunately, graphic designing at that time wasn't really big in the Philippines. And although I did get to some companies, the small companies really didn't work.
Right.
So again, I lost the job and I got depressed again. And my sister reminded me of that. I don't know why, but she just kept on suggesting that. And she was like, well, you're jobless now. You need to go get something. And I think your English is good. Why don't you start teaching online? And that's what I did. And at first, my online students were Korean. It started with a small company in Korea.
Right. I was gonna say, you started with you started doing that through a company, right? You didn't do it like freelance or anything.
Yeah, I started with a company,
Right.
a very small company. Although I didn't really have good experiences teaching Korean students, probably because of the culture barrier and sometimes language barrier.
Right.
And also the company was really small and it was just, beginning. So I didn't really pursue that. And then I moved to a Japanese online teaching company,
Right.
which was located here in the Philippines, specifically in Makati. And in the Philippines, Makati is one of the biggest corporate business areas in the Philippines. And that is the start of that is the start of refreshing the Japanese dream.
Right.
And then later on, I met a family that became my online students. And they were so nice to me and they were inspired whenever they learn English with me. In fact, the father, who was one of my students, he was the one who encouraged me to invite me to Japan.
Right. Wow.
And
That's pretty cool, though. It's like they were so impressed and grateful, I guess, for you teaching them, and they were like, "Yo, come over."
exactly. And it felt like a movie, because I never dreamt of going outside the Philippines, being invited by strangers.
Right.
I mean, and when he did, he asked me this question. He was like, "Do you like Japan, and are you inspired about life in Japan now that you're teaching Japanese people?" And I'm like, "Yeah," because the thing about online English teaching is that you don't just teach English; you get to know the people you teach. And they also sometimes we do language exchange. Sometimes they teach me, "Oh, do you know the word difficult in Japanese? You say muzukashii." And I'm like, "Oh, that's nice." I mean, you get to learn with them, and they share you things about their lives, their vacation, where they go, where they live, the food they eat. So it's not just about learning a language, it's also learning about your students,
Right.
and who they are and their culture and the differences.
You're really getting that connection, right, with the people you teach too.
Exactly. And that's how the Japanese dream really grew. Not just through my mind, but also through my heart. And yeah, going back, so this student of mine was so inspired that he invited me over. And he's like, hey, why don't you come over and you'll stay at our place, you'll meet the kids, and you'll meet my wife, and you will be part of the host family. We will be your host family. And you know, it's a thing in Japan where if you want to stay over, like if you want to be a student in Japan, like if you want to pursue your studying in Japan, there's a thing called host family.
Okay.
And then a lot of Japanese families apply as host families to support the foreigner who wants to study in Japan for probably a year, 2 years, or even 6 months. And I may not be a student, but because they really liked me, yeah, they volunteered as my host family, and that was really funny.
That's really cool, though. That's pretty cool.
And when I told that to my family, they were surprised also, because again, it felt like a movie. Like, who would want to believe somebody from the other side of the world who don't really know you suddenly invite you to come over to their place and experience their country?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I was like, why not?
And especially, like, considering what we know now, after all the shows we've done, like, considering, like, this coming from Japanese people, right? Being, like, really inviting and welcoming to someone they don't know from another country.
Exactly.
It's pretty cool. It's a good start.
Mm-hmm. And then after that, finally, I made it there in Japan. I lived with my host family in Chiba. So Chiba is like an hour away, Tokyo. And Chiba is where, technically, Tokyo Disneyland is located.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so Chiba is like a prefecture. It's not really the main city. It's close to Tokyo, as I mentioned a while ago.
Right.
And the airport, Narita Airport, is located there, and Tokyo Disneyland is located there, and some other big facilities are located there. And at that time, it was my first time to experience Disneyland.
Like actual Disneyland.
The actual Disneyland, because I've never been to any Disneyland ever.
Yeah.
And
because you don't.
Yeah, it was.
You don't have one in the Philippines, do you?
No.
Okay.
We don't have one. And when Hong Kong Disneyland was built, we weren't able to. My sister and I weren't able to travel there anyway. So yeah, technically Tokyo Disneyland was my first ever experience being in Disneyland.
That's a good way to start in Japan.
Yeah, it was really great. And
fresh off the plane.
Yeah.
Oh, yo, let's go to Disneyland. I want to see see Mickey.
Mickey-san. No, just kidding. Sorry. Sorry, did I spill your coffee? Did I make you spill your coffee?
Almost.
Yeah.
Anyway, I have a quick question. So you flew from the Philippines, where you came from. How long does a flight take?
Okay, so the low-cost carrier took, I think, but if it's gonna be through Philippine Airlines, it's probably just gonna be 2 hours or 2.5 hours.
That's a really short flight. Okay. I thought it would be longer than that.
No, because the Philippines is quite close to, to Japan.
Okay.
Yeah. And upon arriving in Japan, I was really nervous because I had no idea what to do. I was alone. I wasn't with my family. I wasn't with my sister. I was all by myself. And at that time, I also met with my other online students. And it was amazing. It felt like at first we were talking through Skype, and then suddenly I just met them from head to toe. I'm like, damn, you're tall. Oh, damn, you're prettier than I thought. Like, it was really amazing. Yeah. And then fast forward, after that experience, I was really inspired, and I talked with my host family regarding the experience, the 11-day experience in Japan. And I was like, I feel like I want to live here.
Right.
But, you know, I also feel like it's impossible. And then my student, who became my host father, told me it's possible. Because do you know there's a thing called assistant language teachers in Japan? And that was how he explained how most foreigners get the chance to live in Japan, by becoming an English teacher.
Maybe I should do that. Maybe I should be a French teacher.
Exactly. Yeah. Why not? Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, after a year of struggling, after a year of what do you call that? Applying online, I finally got the job. But again, it wasn't really easy. I had to go through a lot of, difficulties. I had to go through a lot of emotional dilemmas and all that.
Right.
And
because,
a month before,
I mean, it's a big decision, right? When you're starting that process, you're really going for, okay, if this goes through, I'm going to leave home and go to a place that I don't know about, and I don't know how much time I'm going to be spending there, kind of thing, right? So
I agree with you.
It's a hard decision to make.
It's a very hard decision because, first of all, I grew up with my family for 30 years.
Right.
Yeah, I'm more than 30 now. Although I look like I'm 15, but well. Moving to another country for the first time in 30 years was really difficult for me because, again, there were a lot of things to consider. Number one is the language barrier.
Right.
Another one is the culture barriers, the climate, and the behavior of people, and the fact that I'm going to live alone. I mean, I depended on my family. I mean, their presence, talking with them, eating with them, going on vacations with them. And at that time, it was going to be my first time to do things literally on my own.
Right.
So a month before I flew to Japan, I was crying. I was like really crying. Of course, I wasn't really showing that to my family, but whenever I'm alone in my room or I'm in the bathroom, I tend to cry because I was nervous. I didn't know what I would feel, how I would react once I get there.
It's hard because it's a big culture shock too, right? You're coming from a place that is warm pretty much in every sense of the word, right? Like not just the weather, but like the people and the culture. It's very social. And you're going into a new country. You don't know anything about the country aside from what you've read. You don't know the people. You don't know anybody there. You're starting from scratch. You're all by yourself. It's hard. It's really difficult to do.
Yeah. And then once I got there, so the company the company recommended me to move to Hokkaido because this company that I was hired to, they assign people usually they assign the people according to their requests.
Right.
But at that time there were a lot of people requesting in the major cities, which was Tokyo, Osaka, and Nagoya. And I was one of those who suggested to be relocated at least in Chiba, which is closer to my host family for obvious reasons. Unfortunately, there were already a lot of teachers hired in that area, and there was no more slot for me at that time. So the company called me And they told me, okay, Jennifer, you're going to be hired in Hokkaido. And I'm like, what? Because, guys, Hokkaido is like
Talk about it.
the coldest area in the Philippines, in Japan, sorry.
I was going to say.
It's the coldest area in Japan.
Talk about a
and
shock. Just
me living for 30 years in a at least 30-degree temperature, tropical country, humid, by the way. I was really shocked because I had no idea how I would survive in Hokkaido. And I told the company manager, I was like, is there any way I can just be relocated in Chiba? Because I'm from the Philippines. You should understand that. Being entitled. And this guy was like, okay, well, if you don't want to accept the job, then we're just going to look for another one who will accept the job. And I'm like, okay, let's go to Hokkaido. All right. Okay, I'm ready. I really am. Okay, let's go. What do we do? Well, I wanted to achieve the dream. So I had no choice but to take it. Now, there you go. I finally flew there. And it was, it was back in March 2015. And at that time, winter was really, really tough. It was March 2015. March. You can imagine March is like the time of spring, right?
What it should be the time of spring.
Right? You can imagine the snow is melting. Flowers are kind of blooming, but not in full bloom, but it's starting to bloom and the trees are, becoming green. But guess what? It's not like that in Hokkaido.
How is it in Hokkaido?
Oh my God. I remember I was taking the plane and so I was at the window side. I was looking down, enjoying the nice greenery from Tokyo. And then a few minutes later, it gets brown and gray and bluish white and then white. And I'm like, oh God, what the hell is that? Like white everywhere. What?
Oh no.
Just so you know, guys, in the Philippines, March is the start of summer. And it's very shocking for me because I had 0% idea what is life in a 4-season country. So seeing those snowy mountains from the plane, I was like, oh God, I think I'm going to meet Mr. Freeze.
Or Santa Claus,
Yeah. So the plane just landed. And I'm kind of equipped because I bought a tough winter coat from the Philippines. And I wore my gloves. And being Filipino, I wore 3 layers of clothes inside, plus my winter coat. And just 1 layer of leather gloves. I think that was fine. I was able to deal with it.
Right.
And to be fair, when I got on the bus, I was being like a first-timer tourist.
Mm-hmm.
And upon seeing the snow for the first time in my life, that is not from the movies, I was like, damn, look at those snow. I was like, damn, I couldn't, I couldn't just stay in my seat. I stood up and walked everywhere and took pictures and took videos, and the people around me was just staring at me like, okay, definitely a foreigner. Okay, somebody who's seen snow for, okay, all right, I'm feeling embarrassed for this woman, but I don't care. I'm just gonna sleep in the corner. I don't care. I'm not seeing her. And I was like, damn, oh God, wow, is this, oh my God, this is amazing. And I was like doing that for the entire 2 hours.
That's funny.
Yeah, that was, by the way, that was my second stage, which was my honeymoon stage.
Mm-hmm.
My arriving in Japan, the honeymoon stage. And of course, the first few months was really exciting because it feels like a dream, but not sleeping. You're actually awake. Your eyes are wide open, and you know that it's not a dream because you're on your own. And yeah, I know I feel a little embarrassed for this, but upon getting outside the bus, I was like, snow, and I was really touching the snow, and I didn't care what the people think of me. I was like, oh my god, I've never seen this in my entire life. And yeah. And in my first 2 months, I was really enjoying everything because it was also my first time owning my own car. And yeah, that car of mine is called a K car. So K cars are usually the tiny city cars in Japan. And I think we have a picture of that, Florent.
Let's show your car.
So my first car was a Toyota. I think it was a Toyota Picasso, but I think that was only manufactured around Japan. It's probably not an important car. Yeah, that was my first car, and I drove it around Hokkaido, and I was really happy about it. And I enjoyed every little bit because it felt like every day you wake up and everything is new, and it just, sometimes I just can't explain the happiness in me. You know, because it's like every day is like a new day, and you're in your dream world and you actually live there, and each day you get to discover new things. And yeah, because I was situated in a small town in Hokkaido, it's called Kyogoku. Like, people tend to talk about you in a good way. You know, they talk about you in a good way, and foreigners are not really common in Hokkaido, especially in small towns. And of course, I live there as the English teacher of the town.
Right.
And a lot of people, well, not all, but a lot of people were curious about me, and they tend to give me free stuff. You know, like,
which is always nice. No, free stuff is always good.
Yeah, like every morning I wake up, some people would just knock from my door and introducing themselves as like, oh, I'm the mother of your student, and we have a farm right in our house, and we'd like to give you these.
That's so
and
nice.
I was like, oh, that's amazing, thank you. Although, you know, some of them are able to speak in English, but most of them, unfortunately, cannot speak in English. And at that time,
which is why
my Japanese was really terrible, because I didn't have formal education in Japanese.
Right.
I only know the basic thank you, hello, excuse me. That's it. And that was the start of my culture shocks, which was the stage 3 of my moving to Japan. And my culture shock started on sometime around the 3rd and 4th month, where the honeymoon stage is starting to fade, because
once you're a bit more used to once you're used to like your environment and stuff like that, that's kind of like when everything sets in,
right. And of course, you know, every day was a happy day, was an exciting day, was a discovery day. But knowing the fact that you live 24/7 on your own, not even knowing the language of the people. I couldn't speak at that time. I couldn't speak Japanese. I felt like a mute person.
Right.
Because, you know, I wanted to talk with the people, but we can't, because I couldn't speak Japanese. They can't speak in English. And it was tough because, you know, living alone every day, waking up every day, I felt like I was starting to get exhausted. Because at that time, I could rarely even talk with my family.
Right.
Because it's not that I didn't have the time, but because moving to a country, a foreign country, you know, with a foreign language for the first time, the adrenaline in you makes you feel unstable.
Right.
I don't know how to explain that, but your mind is always running around, or sometimes it's blank space, and this adrenaline in you feels like you couldn't decide what to feel or what to do, or you're not in your stable mind.
And it just takes a lot out of you anyway, like being thrown into there. So I would expect, once the day ends, it's like your brain is just
Right. And that was the main reason why I could not even talk to my own family.
Right.
I couldn't express myself. I was like still confused. And by the way, Flo, it took me 2 years to adjust to Hyogoku. My first hometown. It took me 2 years, yeah.
I'm not surprised. I can't say I'm surprised. It took me a while to get used to Vancouver here too.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, it's a different place, right? Different place, different environment, different people. Like, to be fair, here in Vancouver is not that much different than how it is in Europe. So like, the adapting, like, it didn't take me too much to adapt. I also didn't have the language barrier because everybody speaks English or French here, so it wasn't too bad. But like in your case, like this is like literally a whole different world.
Exactly, especially that I was located in a remote countryside.
Yeah,
Hyogoku, by the way, is a huge area in Hokkaido.
Right.
And there are only 3,000 people living in that place. So can you imagine how remote it is?
3,000 people for that huge, like, physical, geographical area there. Tell us about that, because you used to live in the Philippines. You used to live in a more like city place kind of thing, right? It was like a lot busier, a lot more people.
Right.
What was the difference? What was the big change for you going from there and going to that place that was basically really, I don't want to say empty, but almost?
First, I like to share the photo of the view from my apartment. So, and of course, let's share what my apartment looked like.
All right, let's show your apartment first.
Yeah. So, luckily, I was assigned to this little, well, it's not little, it's a big, nice yellow apartment. And it looks really nice. And I was really amazed because I've never lived in an apartment ever in my life for 30 years. So it was my first time. And it was located in a quite remote area where you can see a mountain called Mount Yote. And Mount Yote is like the Mount Fuji of Hokkaido.
All right.
And from there, right, from there, I could see the mountain from my apartment window. So we also have a photo of that. And somehow that made me feel not alone in a way, because I'm kind of what do you call that person who's not really used to claustrophobic? There you go.
Right.
I'm kind of claustrophobic. The apartment that I was assigned to has a very tiny space, about probably 28 to 30 square meters.
Right.
For the whole thing.
It's basically
right.
like a one room kind of thing, right?
Yeah, it's like a studio,
it's like a studio
room. It is a big apartment, but it has 18 tenants in there. So yeah, we're all 18. So you can imagine how small the room is. And the window gave me the feeling of at least somehow I can breathe in that room.
Right. That's a nice view to have there.
Yeah.
It's a
very nice view. And I've seen the mountain, like all the four seasons of the entire place. But yeah, going back, for me it was 180 degrees turn from the city life to the countryside, because I lived in the city for 30 years and then suddenly bam,
right,
I have to live to a remote area where nobody speaks my language, nobody acts like me. And although for all Asians. Just so you know, guys, Japanese people are not really open to foreigners, whether you're Asian or whatever color you are. They're just not used to that. So everything to me is
something we kind of have touched on previous episodes. If you guys want to check that out on our YouTube channel, we'll leave the links in the description.
Yeah. And it took me quite a while to adjust. And there was really a time I got really depressed because even my coworkers don't talk to me. Can you imagine that? Because of the language barrier. I couldn't speak fluent Japanese at that time. All I could do was just listen to them.
Right.
And just say, hi, so this. That's it. That's all I can say.
It's very hard.
And they didn't talk to me, not because they didn't like me. It's just that they didn't know how to interact with me. And can you imagine doing this for 4 years? Not 24/7, but every day at work for 4 years. People are not talking to me.
That's hard.
That was tough.
I bet.
And there was even a time I was like overwhelmed about it. I was worn out that every time we have school breaks or like, you know, whenever I have a free time, I had to run outside of school, get into my car and just cry in there.
I bet.
Because just so you know, guys, in Japan, if you're working or you're in a public place, it's unethical for you to show, what do you call that? Like strong emotions. Right. And, you know, like if you have a problem in Japan, you can't just cry in the corner and people will help you out. No, it's unethical to do that.
Right.
You know, living in the Philippines with a very different culture, we're a kind of people in the Philippines where we're just really emotional. And it was really tough for me because being emotional, then suddenly living in a place where you're not even allowed to be publicly emotional, that was really tough for me.
I bet.
And it's not just that, it was also the 4 seasons. I mean, living in a country with 4 seasons, especially when the winter season is like half of the year, 6 months. God.
It's like half the time is winter, and then all other 3 seasons are like just divided in 6 months.
It was terrible. It was really terrible for me because although winter is really pretty, you know, winter is nice, especially when you see them in the movies or when you see them on TV. In real life, it's not funny at all.
It's not as fun.
You know, cold. Like yeah, and it's not just that. Imagine yourself living in a freezer for like more than 24 hours.
Right.
For 6 months. It was tough, guys. Like I did have the proper clothes for that, but it didn't give justice to my Filipino skin.
I bet.
How did I survive? I stayed indoors. And my car has a pretty tough warm what do you call that? Not cooling system, but heating system.
Right.
And to be fair, Hokkaido has very good heating system, so I'm happy about that. And what else? Not just the 4 seasons, but of course, being Filipino, I love Filipino food, and Filipinos love to do their own stuff, their own Filipino ways, and it got me homesick. Because first of all, Southeastern food, fruits, condiments, and anything to do with Filipino food is not available in Hokkaido. Probably it could be available in the south, like Tokyo, or on the more southern part, which is Hiroshima or Okinawa, which is almost like the Philippines. Hokkaido is not like that. I mean, I could almost impossibly even see a papaya. You know, a papaya is like Filipino fruit. I've been craving for papaya at that time, and there was no papaya.
That's unfortunate. And have you found papayas since then, or still not?
Well, when I moved to Sapporo, somehow I did find a papaya, and I was really happy about that.
Okay.
And to be fair, bananas are very popular in Japan, and it's kind of funny because when I looked for bananas in the grocery store, there was a katakana saying Philippine banana, and I'm like, oh my god, this is home.
Bananas from home.
Unfortunately, guys, the bananas imported from the Philippines didn't taste exactly like the bananas I had in the Philippines. It was way, I don't know, for me it's bland.
Right.
Not as sweet as what we have in the Philippines.
Maybe they came from different part, or they were picked too early, so they didn't have time to get ripe.
Well, there are Japanese standards where, you know, everything must be clean, everything must be perfectly yellow, no spots, no brown spots. But, you know, Japan doesn't know that the best tasting bananas have the most number of brown spots in the banana, but they don't like that, so.
Right.
But, you know, it's not just about the banana. Of course, it's all about, you know, craving for Filipino food, craving for hearing somebody talk in Tagalog.
Just something familiar.
Exactly. And although some people would say, "Oh, you're fine. You're fluent with your English. You're fluent with your English." I may be fluent in English, but this is my second language. It's not my native language. And although I do speak English in my country in the Philippines,
right,
I don't usually use it with the people around me, with my family, with my friends. I speak Tagalog.
Mm.
You know, to give you an example, nagtagalog ako. Like that. And
sorry.
I need to hear that sometimes.
It gets me every time.
At least one a month.
Just for a month.
What?
It gets me every time. Every time I hear you speaking Tagalog, I don't know. It's funny. It's interesting.
Nakakatawa.
Good go.
That means, is it funny? But yeah. Again, it took me 2 years to be able to adjust, got used to the culture, got used to being alone. And of course I enjoy my life here in Japan. I really do. I enjoy my job. I love living here. It's just that every now and then I still tend to have culture shocks.
Right.
That's why I consider it as my third stage, because in my opinion, being proudly Filipino here, I may have moved here and may definitely permanently move here because I'm engaged to a Japanese guy.
All right.
But that doesn't, you know, that doesn't state the fact that I'm not anymore Filipino. I still am.
Mm-hmm.
And I will always tend to have culture shocks every now and then, because just because you move here in a different country and just because you got used to everything, almost everything here, doesn't mean that you don't want to go back and reminisce who you really are and, you know, embrace your own culture, your own language, your own food. You know, I still cook Filipino food until now. I still listen and watch Filipino shows, which is funny because I never did back in the Philippines. Maybe that's what, you know, evolves you when you start moving to a different country. You start missing what you have back in your country.
I don't know, maybe. I know I don't necessarily have that kind of feeling personally.
Maybe it's being Filipino, I guess.
Maybe, I don't know. Like, I don't really cook French food. I mean, to be fair, I never really have. And I don't watch shows in French because, I don't know, it just feels weird to me. Every time I hear French, it just feels weird to me. But then again, I've been living here for so long, maybe that's why. I don't know.
Wow. 14 years, I can't even imagine that.
Hey, who knows? Maybe you'll get there. I mean, looks like you will.
Okay, so before we end, I'd just like to share you guys some photos of, of how I started here in Japan.
Right.
And let's show my first photo about Kyogoku. So there's a photo of me posing in a peace sign, trying to be Japanese, but I'm not really Japanese.
Trying to be Japanese.
I will try, but I will never be at all.
You're funny. Ken in the chat says that he does the
Here's
same.
me posing in a peace sign. And from afar is Mount Yote, and it looks exactly, well, to me, it feels like Mount Fuji. And I was really amazed when I saw this for the first time, because I've never lived in a place where, there would be a mountain from afar, and I would be like seeing that for the rest of my life in 4 years.
Right.
And yeah, I also like to share a photo of Mount Yote in winter. And this photo was taken from my window. I woke up on that day and I was amazed by the beauty of.
The one from the window.
Oh, what do you think about this mountain floor?
That's actually pretty cool. Like, I don't know. Like,
right?
Seeing that every morning when you wake up, that must be pretty amazing. Like, I would
yeah, it is.
I would never get tired of it.
Me too. Like, to me, that was my scapegoat.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, believe it or not, when I didn't have friends back then, I talked to the mountain.
You talk to the mountain. That's okay.
I talked to the mountain.
No.
And the crows. There were not a lot of birds, but there were a lot of crows. I don't know why.
Now, did the mountain reply?
If it did, I'd be really damn scared.
All right. Nice.
Yeah, I also want to show, like a, what do you call that? A panoramic view of Mount Yote in winter. And this is where, yeah, this is like a view coming from a few steps from outside my apartment, and there's a river over there. It never freezes, by the way. It's always like that, even during winter.
Remember, it's so cold, it never freezes. Do we have? Yeah, here we go. I have one with the river.
No, I mean it never turns into ice. That's what I meant.
That's crazy, considering how cold it is.
I know, right? I don't know. I'm not into science, but I don't know the science of that, the explanation for that. But it never becomes ice. It does become colder than as it usually is, but it still runs normally. And yeah, sometimes I could see salmon swimming from there. Yeah. And then, of course, being in a wintry place, my sister suggested, why don't you do a snow angel?
Snow angel.
And so I did.
You have to do a snow angel.
I had to do the snow angel thing. And it felt good because that was kind of weird because I was in a park at that time. And I didn't have friends again at that time. And it was on a cold sunny day of December, and I was like, okay, nobody's looking at me, only me. Okay, I'm gonna do this on my own. All right, yay! Oh my god, this is amazing.
That's funny.
That could be my first, and at that time it could be my first and last. I would probably do that when I move with Shingo
maybe
next year.
We do have snow here, and I've been living here for so long, but I have never done a snow angel.
You have to do it.
I guess I'll have to do it next winter.
And yeah, once you do it, you have to film yourself.
Yeah. Someone in the chat, someone in the chat, remind me when winter comes around. Do a snow angel.
Oh god.
What's up with that?
I would definitely be. I would definitely be doing that.
Right.
Oh god. All right, and that's it for today's topic.
That's pretty much it. That's really when that's a life-changing situation to be in, really. Moving from your own home country and going somewhere completely different, where you don't know anybody, where you don't know the country, you're not super familiar with the culture. That's a really, really big step to take. And so far you've been doing pretty good.
I am. I mean, I have to admit, it's not always a happy place. It's not always a happy time. As we all know, life is like a roller coaster. Sometimes you're in your dramatic area, you're in your dramatic period, but sometimes also you're doing great. But for those who want to, or for those who are planning to move to Japan, here are some tips that I want to tell you guys. First of all, you need to be prepared with the lifestyle and the culture of the people around here. If you are a bubbly person, don't expect people to be bubbly back with you. You know what I mean?
Right.
And the more foreign you are, maybe you're gonna be lucky if you're located in the city. But of course, in your first few days, people are gonna be excited to meet you. But if you get to stay there longer, the more people will be a little, I don't know, not used to being with you anymore. They're like, you're still here? I mean, I don't know how to explain it, but
what? You're still here? You haven't given up yet?
You're still here? Where are you leaving? I mean, it's case by case. It really depends. I would say they would really appreciate you if you try to embrace their culture. Don't act like, oh, I'm a foreigner. This is how I am, so you need to accept me. No, it should be the other way around.
Right.
So if you want to move here, and if you really want to enjoy your life here, if you want to, if you want to learn how to adjust here quickly, learn to adjust for them.
Right.
It's not that you're pleasing them. It's just that because Japan is a very conservative country in a way. I mean, culturally they are conservative. So if you're trying to stand out, they don't like that. And you will not really be able to adjust well, because that's what I did.
Right.
Like at first I showed who I was. I was like, okay, I'm bubbly. This is me. Oh, I want to be friends with everybody. But that doesn't work in Japan.
Yeah.
If you want to be friends with people, you have to do it slowly. You can't do it like in just a day. You expect a lot of people to like you. That's not how it goes.
Right.
You have to do things slowly. You have to be discreet in a way. You have to always try to adapt to their culture, their language, their food even. You have to show them that you appreciate whatever they do. And you have to show them that you're here because you want to, you want to accept them who they are, and hoping that they will accept you.
Right.
It's kind of like that. So, yeah, I guess that's my tip if you want to move to Japan.
If you want to move
but
to
of
Japan,
course, but of course you will enjoy it. You will enjoy it. You just have to be tough. You just have to be extra patient, because again, your expectations as a foreigner wouldn't be the same expectations that people around here would give you. Yeah. All right.
For sure, but that's pretty much it. Yeah, that's it for our episode today. That was a good one. We went a little over from what we wanted to do, but that's okay. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. That was our first episode back live on Facebook. First time on Facebook, but first episode back live. That was our episode 14. You can find all of the other episodes on our YouTube channel. Just search for Shiitake on YouTube. You will find us. You can also find all those episodes and more in audio format on all audio platforms, Spotify, GooglePlay, iTunes, all that stuff, if that's more convenient for you. in any case, thank you, Jay, for all your sharing and experiences today. That was very informative and interesting. Thank you, everybody, for watching.
Thank you, Flo.
And yeah, we will catch you all of you guys very soon later. Have a good day, night, wherever you are. Bye-bye.
Bye.